Hi, everybody. I'm here again. This time, I am moderating a panel, and it's on government contracting. And I have my panelists here to my left. I'm going to just, I'm going to just go down the line. I'm going to do brief introductions of them, and then, of course, I'll let them speak after I'm done with each introduction as well. So to the left of me is Zia Islam of Zantech IT Services. He's the CEO and founder. And Zantech provides enterprise information system solutions to federal agencies, such as Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, and NASA. It also has industry clients. Launched in 2007, the Northern Virginia-based company's revenue has grown from 40,000 to more than 23 million. Zantech has provided support and solutions to federal agencies in areas as wide-ranging as developing energy infrastructure in Afghanistan and operating the geostationary operational environmental satellite. He's born in Uttar Pradesh. Zia came to the United States in the early 1990s to do his master's in systems engineering from Ohio University. And before that, he earned his MS degree in mechanical engineering from Al Ghira Muslim University. And before founding Zantech, Zia had worked for General Motors for 14 years. Please feel free to add something to that if I had missed it.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah. Just reading it off the paper. And then we have Sanjay Mittal next to Zia. He is the CEO of the Richmond, Virginia-based eHealthObjects. He founded the company along with his wife, Sunita Gupta, in 2006. And they did it to fix the highly fragmented and costly health IT systems. eHealthObjects currently has state agency clients in 6 states, including Georgia, Maryland, as well as private contracts across the country. With a solid platform that includes a good client base and a terrific team, Mittal plans to further expand services to neighboring state agencies, more private companies, and then globally. Previously, Sanjay worked for Coventry Healthcare, Health Management Corporation, and CapTech Ventures. And again, if there's something I missed, please do add it.
No, I think you're good. Thank you.
And then, last but not least, we have Venkat Subramanian, I apologize. He's the founder and president and CEO of ANGARAI, a professional management consulting firm established in 2003 and headquartered in Greenbelt, Maryland. Venkat has developed holistic organization change management solution models and an effective engagement management model and methodology, which are signature products of the ANGARAI International, Inc. Under his stewardship, ANGARAI has successfully implemented these models and methodologies for its clients in the United States of America and outside. With his leadership, the level of quality services provided to ANGARAI clientele in each center of excellence has precipitated an 800% increase in gross revenue since its inception. Losing all my words now. He earned a BS in mathematics and MBA in international business from University of Georgia System. He has a PMP from the Project Management Institute. He did his graduate studies in systems management and industrial psychology degree from, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, Anamala University. There you go. So those are the brief introductions. It was a mouthful. If you would like to add something, please do.
It is ANGARAI. The name of the company is ANGARAI.
ANGARAI.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So to start off, I'm going to do just a few general questions that each of you can answer. And then I do have a specific question to your company as well. So to start off with, if you can tell us, what benefits do you see in combining the public and private sectors together, and how has it helped your brand and your company? Yeah, you can start from here.
Okay.
Do you want me to repeat it?
Yeah.
Sure. The question was, what benefit do you see in combining the public and private sectors? How has it helped you and your brand?
First of all, good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here, and I'm glad that I'm part of American Bazaar Entrepreneurship Summit. And Zantech is a private company, so the question that you have asked and I do a federal contracting business, so the question is how I'm going to benefit with a public and a private company. I want to tell a little bit about Zantech. We do information technology, program support services, as well as engineering services. And I started my business in 2007. And I was able to grow in 7 years from $40,000 to $42 million business now. So we provide a lot of service in Department of Defense and Department of State and Homeland Security, as well as we do science and engineering in NASA. Now, again, the question is how public service and private service it will benefit. So my goal at the end of the day, of course, as a private company owner, is to convert to public company, but it's not just easy to raise the money and to be at that level. So our goal should be, we should be as an entrepreneur, definitely from Indian origin. That's the goal here, to ask everybody to make sure, understand how to do business. And eventually, we should be able to grow our business to the level that we can make it public and make it big name in the industry.
I think maybe it was misunderstood. I meant to say working with the government sector, which is public. How does it benefit you as a private company?
Okay, that's what I'm asking. What
Sorry,
is
maybe I said that incorrectly.
Okay, now, that's the good question. That I can answer very well, because I'm a private company. Why I'm going to worry about converting to public so fast?
Not at all.
Okay, so the federal government has a very disciplined procurement process. Is oversight, contract oversight, and all the attention to detail. They check everything. So working with the federal government is a little bit different than the commercial market. I started working from GM, so I worked there 14 years in Detroit, Michigan. I had a heck of a time at GM because I was in charge of C6, 2006 model of Chevy Corvette. And I led a group of designers who designed, and I received GM Chairman Honors Award for one of the best design sports car. So when I came here and worked on the federal government side, I thought I'm going to leverage my commercial experience, that what I had, and provide a solution to the federal market. But the federal market is really very different. You have to know this market, how to do the business. And the past performance is very important for them. So you need to start developing the past performance to make sure you can bid some prime contract. So it has been challenging and different for me. Thank you.
Thanks everyone to come here this afternoon. Thanks, Asif. It took me about 2.5 hours to come, but I had to be here because of Asif. Thank you. We're based in Richmond, Virginia, and how we got benefit, I think the biggest benefit as a small business owner or a private company is what you get with the government contract. It is scalability. Because you try to look at the commercial clients, you start selling them piece by piece, one by one. It takes a lot of time to kind of grow, and once you do a good job, as Zia talked about, the scalability. If you do a good job on one of your contracts, sky's the limit, because they want to repeat the proven vendors over and over again. And as far as the work goes, there is no shortage of work in the government. We mainly work with the state governments. We're not there in the federal yet, and that's a corporate decision. We feel that we're not yet ready for the federal market. So as a small business owner, you need to know what is the right way and when to expand into which market. I used to work for Coventry Healthcare and First Health Services and most of the healthcare companies. And we were dealing with the state governments mainly. And that's where my contracts was. I understood the state procurement process. And that's where, as a company, we decided to kind of go into the state market first before we started looking at the federal market. So the benefit is, again, the other thing is we are in a health technology. So not only from the growth perspective as a private business owner, we get the scalability. For example, in Georgia, we sold it to one of the agencies, and now our product is used by almost about 650 entities all over Georgia. And so that is what you get out of getting into working with the state government. Thank you.
Thank you again. Good afternoon. Stupid me, I turned it off. good afternoon. Glad to be here and share whatever little bit I know. I guess what she was trying to get at was how, correct me if I'm wrong, how would one look at an opportunity in the public sector space as opposed to private sector in pursuit of business?
That's definitely one part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
All right. Well, my personal opinion, it's always better to have a spread portfolio. I mean, working with the government is great, but it's like boiling the ocean. It takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months before you can see something out of it. Whereas in the same 18, 24 months time, we would have probably finished 3 to 4 engagement in the private sector. So it has, both its pros and cons. The procurement process is rather lengthy and cumbersome, but you should know intimately, you should be familiar with the budget, the players, the expectations of the government, and how to go about the whole bidding process, which is, as I said, very lengthy and cumbersome, and it could, by the time you start tracking it to the time of an RFP, if you're reacting to an RFP, in my opinion, it is too late. You haven't probably realized that this is coming, and so you're late to the party already. And so ability to look at that and track that, is a different mindset and different business cycle, so it takes longer. Whereas in the private sector, and I said it's very nimble and adaptable, it's rather quick, but it could be small, as Sanjay mentioned. And, the competition landscape is a lot different in the private sector as opposed to the public sector.
So to piggyback off of what you just said, you just mentioned the bidding process. That's something I'm sure we're all curious about. I am too. If you can just tell us a little bit about the process and maybe some tips that you can share.
Sure. Well, even when you say public sector, we actually work in federal, state, county, and local government. And that's, within that, the variation for a bidding process is worse than Baskin-Robbins. You have 31 flavors. And you have to be intimately familiar with what we are dealing with. My approach and my suggestion would be, don't try to be everything to everyone. Know your sweet spot, know your scope, and know your agency. Because there is tremendous amount of opportunity with each of these agencies, but don't try to keep chasing everything in every agency. Then you'll be busy doing just chasing. Closing becomes a challenge. The second thing is the partners that you work with. It's particularly in the government, depending upon the complexity and the size, it is almost impossible for us to prime every single project, or at least in my opinion. So find a partner that you can join hands with, so your bandwidth is effectively managed, your workload is spread, and so are the benefits. It's better to get a percentage of a bigger pie than to get 0% of nothing. So look at that partnership where you have some common synergies and common understanding and a benefit and value that you can demonstrate together.
Just to add a little bit to that, I think as a business owner, you need to know what is your strength and what you can get out of and where the opportunities are, which agency the opportunity is. And then you have to really work hard to win that business, because government contracting, to start with, I mean, once you prove yourself, it's easy after that because you have proved yourself. But, we struggled. I mean, we started the company in 2006. We came in the market in 2010. We did not win for a very long period of time. And we started with some commercial clients because you have to have a history before you can start to the state government. State government, generally speaking, they would not give you contracts unless until you are experienced in some shape and form. To start with just the state government contracting or the federal one, I mean, based on my experience, and there are people who have different experiences probably, but based on what, I mean, the first thing they ask is, what is your history, what have you done, not as an individual, but as a company. When I was with First Health Services, we were in 26 states, and I was the director for enterprise architecture. We'll go to most of the states, and I was in the healthcare company, so I knew most of the medical directors there. But when I started my company, I could not use that as a corporate history perspective for my company, because, I mean, what I did was in the individual capacity. However, the context do matter. once they know you and they know your work, it's very easy to sort of, at least take some advantage of that. But again, you have to know your niche market. And I give you a perfect example. We started with I was in the disease management market before. And with WellPoint, we had about 40 million covered lives in our programs, and that was developed under my department. So when we started our company, and we'll get to the reasons why we started our own company versus contributing in where I was before, but we started creating this disease management product, and most of these products run into millions of dollars of cost for most of the peer organizations, and nobody will give us that money. Basically, they say, well, what if you close the shop tomorrow? What is going to happen? And that's a fair question. We lost a lot of businesses because of that, because we started with going after $25 million contracts, and nobody will give you that. I mean, if you don't have a history. The biggest, I guess, the hesitancy in the state government, and I only talk about state government because that's what my experience has been. They want to look for, if anything goes wrong, is this company capable enough to really, do still and finish the job? And if the cost increases, so that nobody wants to take chances. I mean, and people say that nobody gets fired to hire IBM. And what is the reason behind that? Because they know that if something goes wrong, IBM will come back and they will basically have resources to kind of finish the job. Whereas if they start working with a very small company, that is a challenge. I mean, and it could be a problem in the long run. So I think once you know your niche market, so we started with the disease management. We did not win any contract. We changed our business strategy. We said, well, we had a lot of components already built, as you need in a disease management, and we changed our focus to the provider market, and we went to the doctor's offices, basically. And doctor's offices, I mean, we're not talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about maybe, 10,000 rupees, dollars, basically. I mean, and that's very, very low coming from there to there. But we did that, and we built some success stories, and then we went after the state contracts, and we were successful after that because we had a sort of a history to talk about that. We are a health technology experts in the area, and we have these many clients to kind of show it to them. And after that, a lot of people when we started, and by the way, eHealthObjects, we started with, and until now, we took zero seed money from anywhere else. This is all investment done by me and my wife, basically, So this is a success story in a different way because, you go to banks and banks will not give you a loan, right? I mean, and it becomes difficult. And the other thing is, when a lot of people start and they really go into with the passion in starting a business, it sounds cool, right? I mean, you have your own business and you're not working for anywhere else. But the thing is, the passion, and you're passionate about it, you're patient about it, but the thing is, you have to still run your house, you have to have a health insurance, right? I mean, how many small businesses would think twice before leaving their job because there's no health insurance after that, right? And we were in that situation as well. So you have to really look at and take the calculated risk. And what I did initially was, if we were not winning contracts, I would actually take a consulting job through my company. And I would actually make money and fund the company. So this is how you do it. But again, you have to change your business strategy. You need to know which agency you're going after. You have to do your homework. And you have to have some success story. And as Venkat talked about, the partnership is very, 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 very important because later on what we decided was we will partner with a bigger player where we're not investing a lot of money in writing all sections of the RFPs. I mean, if you respond to RFP, which is anywhere from $5 million to $20 million or even bigger, it takes, the cost of writing RFP could be in hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually. And small companies, they cannot, and there's no guarantee to win. So you cannot throw your money on, if you keep on working on 4 RFP a year, and you do not win any one of them. I mean, for a small company, it's just basically you have to close down your business, basically. So that's where, you have to really look at the synergies, you find the partners who have a procurement staff or who can write on these RFPs, where your job is to write your section and not really go through the financial section, and there's so much information goes into writing a proposal. Thank you.
Great, so very good. You have explained it very well. And first of all, I'm not in a state level, so I don't know how to work on a state level, so because they have their own process. I can tell you my experience on a federal side, like definitely in big agencies, how they work. You have to be opportunistic when you start. You cannot say, okay, I have to do only this or this, and you have to think out of the box what else you can do to start. And you should be able to work on their terms and conditions. It's like, if you want everything from your side and you starting a business, how would it, you see, you have to always think, how would it affect to the big company, larger company, what they're looking for, what they want from you, why do they add you, what is the reason? So you have to always think in that terms, what else I'm going to bring to make sure I can seal the deal here and I can get something from my side. This is what I'm going to bring. And that's my advice, that how you're going to start as a new business especially. And at the same time, you have to start as a subcontractor even. Sometimes it cannot be possible to be prime, but once you slowly build up that relationship that you started on a day one, first that day you gave something to this, and that's how, and you show the good performance, and that's how it builds the business.
Thank you for sharing the process. I know that each of you mentioned this just a little bit, but if you can further elaborate, what are the main challenges you face as a business dependent on federal contracts and state contracts?
Nowadays, again, in the federal business, you hear all the time budget cut, sequestration, do more with less. These are buzzwords keep coming in your market, and you see what else I can do on this. LPTA, low price, technically acceptable. Everybody is okay, technically acceptable, low price guy is going to win. So, and there is a general tendency in this market, in this area, in federal business, larger is always the better. Why? Because larger guys, they can write better technical proposal, they can be cost competitive sometimes, and they have good past performance. So you worry that, can I compete with the larger because you are a small business? But my advice again is, you should, once you build a little bit past performance, once you are capable, you should not be worried that larger is always the better. There is a high chance that you may win. Thank you.
So I guess the question is the challenges, right? I think I kind of talked a little bit about that. The past history is critical, and most of the agencies, they would like to repeat customers, the vendors. If you have done something successfully for them, they would like to kind of keep repeating you as long as you're really doing what they're asking you to do based on their contracting. The other thing is really, small businesses, there are a lot of categorizations. One of the challenges has been a lot of states, they basically have some kind of allocation for small businesses, minority businesses. And many times, small businesses do not know how to take advantage of it. So spend some time to understand, what is that process, what is the certification you can really, apply for. Whether it's a small minority business certification, or in federal side, it's a 8AA certification. There are a lot of different certifications there, and it takes time to understand all of it and to kind of get through that. But, so those are certain things you can start looking at it. So it's really challenges, and how do you overcome those challenges? And also, it kind of goes both ways. You need to understand what your strength is, and the other thing is where the opportunity is. As Zia talked about, when you're starting, you cannot really look for, I'm just going to do this. You have to really open yourself and say that, well, this is where the opportunity is. We're going to change. And I kind of gave the example. We didn't want to be in the provider business, but we had to, because that was the only opportunity we saw that time. And guess what? Now we moved back to our disease management and the health information exchanges, which we always wanted to do. So the key challenge is, again, Finance is a big one. Everybody knows that. A lot of people, banks, I mean, they would talk about it, but it's very hard to get some kind of business loan from them. But the certification is the key. Look at where you can get the certification from and what is the advantage. Like, for example, Virginia, the governor, McAuliffe, just really basically mandated 42% share for the small businesses, which is really helping a lot of small businesses. So I'm pretty sure different states would have different these kind of allocations. The federal government should have some as well, Jia, I'm pretty sure, right? So take advantage of it. I mean, those are the things, and it takes time to understand it, go through the process, apply, get certification, and then be in front of the agencies. Thank you.
I think they pretty much echoed what I had in mind, but few things I would add to that. One, know your sweet spot. Understand what's your differentiator. And when there's so many folks bidding on it, how is that you're going to be different from others? And look at it from the point of view of the consumer. If you are part of the evaluation team looking at your proposal, why should they choose you over others? And some of the key factors that helps for that is relationship. Again, I went back to, I basically have a very narrow focus of what you are good at and which agencies you are going to be doing this to. You cannot be with every agency, you cannot win every single proposal, but that also comes out of relationship. People would like to work with people that they know and like. Make yourself likable. And this is not very profound, but that's a reality. So, for the agencies that we focus on, every single vendor day we are there. And it's important because you have to be seen. They should see you as a person who's very interested, who can bring in that value to you. And looking at the pipeline, as I said, if you're looking at the government space, 18 to 24 months is a long pipeline, but ability to be on top of it in terms of capture, knowing an opportunity before it hits the street. If you're, as I said before, if you're reacting to an RP after it came to the street, you are late to the party. So that, because all the relationship and partnership are established well before, because someone was helping to get to that point. So if you're not one of them, then the odds are that you're not going to win. And it's not the number of proposals that you go after, it is the number of wins that you get out of. That's more important, because that's what is going to keep your lights on, right? So be sensitive to that. Certifications, as you mentioned, is a great tool to leverage, whether it is the small business or minority business. But I also have a little bit of different perspective to the certification. It's important to have the certification to leverage it, but don't go after something just because you have a certification. Right? It's like going to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you like the food, you like the service. At the end of it, it comes and gives you the check saying, I will take Visa, Master, American Express. You don't go to a place just because they accept Visa. You go to a place because you like the food. So certifications are great, but be clear in what you're offering and make sure that is the value. Now, the small business certification will help, will sweeten the pie, so to speak, but just don't go after something just because you have a small business certification, because that may not necessarily give a best value to a customer. And of course, each of the areas is so different, whether it is federal, state and local, whether it is the business cycle, the procurement process, and partner is the key. I mean, Zia so eloquently explained about that. And so what do? We partner with Zantech. Makes your life easier, right? So, no, but seriously, because those are all the things that's how you grow, that's how you learn, and obviously you cannot be everything everywhere. Take your strengths where you can and leverage them.
Thank you. So our panelists have spoken about the challenges that they face, their bidding process, the benefits of working with the federal government. And now if you can tell us, do you encounter red tape? And if so, how do you manage it?
Government and red tape go together in the same sentence. So we should be living in denial if we think there's no red tape. But it's a question of knowing it. It's a question of, see, as long as you recognize that and plan for it, then you adapt to the structure. Because this is the game, this is the turf that you want to play. Best thing is to learn how to play in the turf.
Yeah, patience. I mean, if you decide to go after the government contracts, I mean, you have to be patient. I mean, there's just no two ways around it. Other thing, you should have enough gas in the tank. I mean, to survive that long. I mean, you apply for. I mean, you should have some revenue stream coming from somewhere so that you can survive during that period until the decision is made. But yeah, I mean, red tape, I mean, how do you do? I mean, you plan. I mean, you plan for the worst days, I mean, and assume that you're not going to win, and then still have some, you have to have, in any business, I mean, you go with, how do you get the constant revenue of income, even if you're not winning more clients? So that's how you sustain, and I can give you an example of our company. I mean, we're not a consulting company only. What I mean to say by that is we're a products company. We basically build our own products and we give the licenses. And the key thing with that we get is really the hosting. And so even if we're not winning new business every month or on a daily basis, we are able to survive because we host our products in our data center, and we get the hosting fees, and that's how you basically have a constant revenue of income. And and then we can go after. I mean, hopefully in a year or two we'll be ready to go after the federal market. But we all are planning for that now, and this is how you really plan, because it is going to take time.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. You have to have plans. Plans, in fact, plans B, C, and D. There is a short-term goal and there's a long-term goal. The short-term is how I'm going to add any pellet, or I'm going to win something, or continuously doing so that I can survive. And that's the challenge in the business. And the job, I used to be at General Motors, I never had any problem. I always enjoyed at 5 o'clock I was at home, because there was no need to worry about the planning, other than if I'm going to good job, I'm going to stay there. If I'm not doing good job, of course, you will not be even working. So in this business, if you have plan of short-term and long-term, because it may be protested, it may create another challenge and problem, you may be losing something, because there is no guarantee of winning even though you submit some proposal. Plus, as he said, Venkat, that you plan long-term, that how you're going to submit a bid proposal where you already know this is what you're going to win, and still there is no guarantee, because I have learned very hard way on this. So always you have to have your day-to-day planning, where you can see next month and within 12 months, and then next year, and then next 5 years. This is how you're going to grow. This is how your business plan should be dictating you also what exactly, even though you lose today, but you know these are the things in pipeline, these are the things coming, and this is what I'm going to bid, and I'm going to win, and this is my total plan, that how I'm going to survive and grow.
Thank you. So now if you can tell us, as a federal contractor and also as a state contractor, you're obviously subject to a lot of auditing and other federal accountability processes. How do you navigate it, and do you have a system in place?
That's the good question. Because I came from GM, so I'm a process-oriented guy. So for me, the first thing I did is, the process should not be you need a certification of ISO 9000 because you like to have it. You do the work that itself creates a certification. You do every day the right paperwork. I will give you an example at GM. You can look at the car and you want somebody, a union guy, to touch and change something, you have to fill out the paperwork. Maybe I have learned too much bureaucracy and too hard way, and that created problem at GM. But when I came here, first thing I did is created an ISO 9000 process and 27000 process and ISO 20000 process. And then you have to go through the audit every year, internal audit and external audit. And every 3 years, you have to get a certification of CMI processes. And for federal business, I think the process is important, not because you have certification, because you want to tell the other side, the government side, that you have a disciplined process in place, because they are looking, are you capable? Can you do this job? I think this is what they are looking. And plus how you differentiate from other company, that, okay, everybody is coming, so they are overwhelmed. This is what I learned. For them, oh my God, you are one of XYZ. There are thousands of companies knocking doors. So how you differentiate yourself? So this is what I suggest, that you need some process in place. So, and plus you have a DCA accounting system. You need to follow that guidelines to make sure you have an approved DCA accounting system so that you can bid cost plus contracts. So the audit in federal business is going to be ongoing. There is, that's the part of the business.
eHealthObjects, we are in probably the most sensitive line of business, health IT, where any breach of patient information, and I think we have to close our shop, basically. And not only that, we deal with behavioral health patients as well, which is even more sort of stricter in a way. So, and we host all the data as well, which is another thing. So, but again, all these things make us a kind of company not many companies can compete with, because we can offer all of that. We can ensure the security of the patient's data. And that was a big discussion with all our clients, and I'm happy to say that I'm a Virginian, and I always look for growing the economy of Virginia, and every single client of ours, we kept their data in our data center based in Virginia, so I'm very proud of it. But we did not go there in a day. I mean, it took a lot of audits by the security teams at different state governments, their chief information officer, security officer. They visited our facility. They made sure that we're doing everything as per HIPAA, to protect the data of the patients. So all these things is, again, when you do planning and you decide on this is the turf you're going to play on, you need to understand the rules and regulations, because many good companies, very good concepts, they just go nowhere, or they can get destroyed in a day if they do not understand the legal requirements, the government requirements, the regulations, things like that. So the good thing is, I and my wife, we both were in health IT for close to about 20 years now. And we understood, because we used to work for Anthem, WellPoint, and I don't know how many of you followed. There was a data breach happened in WellPoint, and that was a big news. But those are big companies, they can survive those. The mid-size and the smaller companies will probably have to close the shop. But anyways, so all these requirements are legal, and the financials and the audits. Absolutely. We also work with state universities. So there is a fairly significant requirements on the dollar amount you get, how do you use that amount, and what kind of resources you use in order to fulfill the contractual requirements. So yes, we just need to understand the rules and the legal requirements and the audit requirements, and you just need to plan for it, basically.
Yeah, to piggyback on what both Zia and Sanjay said, we are in the business of oversight. We do independent verification, validation, quality assurance, quality control, risk mitigation, governance, compliance. So charity begins at home. When I started the company, in my basement in 2003, the first 2 months I developed what I call ABOK, ANGARAI Body of Knowledge. Every single activity that we do in our organization was documented, with just one person. And my wife used to laugh at me. But it is important to have that template and that structure, which is what tremendously helped us when we grew. So when different players within the organization take different role, or different customers need different needs, it doesn't take much for us to build it up. That whole ANGARAI Body of Knowledge, instantly helped us. Helped us to get our CMMI and ISO both at the same time within the 6 months of we starting, because of the structure that we had in place. So that repeatable, dependable, demonstratable structure becomes very critical and key, not only from keeping things straight, but also from a differentiator perspective when you pursue something. Whether it is the DCA audit, or whether it is the federal audit that we go through for the transit, whether it is the state audit that comes to us. So we almost have the flavor of the month in terms of audit because of the nature of business that we do in federal, state, local. But the procedures and standards are so well written. We have a quality management group within the organization that takes care of it. More because, see, we are also talking about public funds that we are using, so there is a fiduciary responsibility that each of us have to take as part of being in this business. So the oversight is not something that happens once a while. It is something which becomes part of our habit, and it's part of our corporate DNA, and that's a very critical part of our success as well.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask one more general question and then the specific ones. So to end off the general question, and I know you've all touched a little bit about it, but if you can elaborate, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting in the government contracting business? What are the first maybe 5 steps they should do?
Good, very good question. The first is you have to know this is what you want to do. You have to do your gap analysis that really you have a plan that this is exactly you want to do, because it's a long run process. You have to be patient. It does not bring the result right away. It's really slow. It's a long procurement cycle and it's a slow process. And third is you cannot be prime all the time. So you're starting a business, you have to start with the subcontracting or one billet or few billets, and you have to create a flyer or some form of a pamphlet where you can say this is what exactly you do, even on a personal basis. Like you as a company owner, you starting, this is what you do, this is what you bring to the table. So and then you hire the right people with the right skill set. So your company's success depends on your people, relationship development. Because once you start the relationship, you take care of the people will take care of your business. Thank you.
You want to start a new business, I think the key thing is, you would need the knowledge of a lot of different areas. I hear people say, and I'm one of the examples too, like I worked in WellPoint and I want to start my own business. Well, I would know everything about architecture, IT, health, but running a business is really, your landscape changes completely. You just not only need to know what you are good at, but also payroll. How are you going to do payroll processing, your finances? So there are a lot of different areas you get into. And what I did was, I didn't have money to hire people. So based on my context, I set up an advisory board. They were not given any sort of money for their services. These were all the contacts I built over the years, and I basically said that this is a advisory board, and I basically got a finance expert as my advisory board. There was a clinical expert, and I had a team of 7 people in the advisory board, and they were, again, you need to look for those kind of people who are interested, who really want to help you. And very clear cut, and I got a lot of value out of it, where I did not need to spend a lot of money to start with, and I got basically the best in the industry. All you have to do is really tell them this is your business, and they can help you on, like, this is how you need to plan for your finances, this is what your IT infrastructure should be, this is how, and they would help you. And I'm pretty sure if you start getting into the business, you would have a similar level of or number of contacts. So set up an advisory board if you don't have money to hire the people. That's number 1. Number 2 is business plan. Very, very critical. A lot of times really doesn't matter it's a catering business, or it's a marketing business, or it's a gas station retail. Any type of business, you have to deal with, you would have the similar number of challenges. It would be bigger for a bigger type of business, but the challenges would be, and this is my 4th or 5th business in the United States, basically eHealthObjects. We always wanted to do it, we didn't have money, so we had to generate money. In order to do that, we invested in a lot of smaller businesses before, and those were very time-consuming businesses as well. And you have to really look for, where the money comes, where it goes, people steal or not, right? We were in the cash business and people will take money. How do you protect that? But anyways, so business plan, advisory board is critical. Then know your niche market. What are you selling, and who is your customer, potential customer? Because you can start with the customer base, and that base, if you can sell, you have to really look for the alternate base of plan A, B, C, as Zia talked about. So look at your customer, look at your market, look at the advisory board, and of course, do whatever you can do it yourself. If, for example, like in our case, I was the architect for the organization for many number of years. And as you know, any IT architect or solution architect, I mean, they cost a lot of money. I didn't have money to pay. So I did it myself. My wife was a very senior position at Anthem, and she was able to kind of lead all the development team, basically, to start with. We hired 2 developers to start with, got done through a lot of things, basically. So these are the key things: advisory board, business plan, niche market, look at your customer base, and then don't lose heart, think big. One of my advisory board member, I mean, they guided me a lot, actually, and he's the legal, so he will look at all our legal contracts for free. He was an advisory board member, and Mark Roseman, and he never lost any litigation case in his life. I mean, he's now retired, basically. What he told me was, you know, when you go for the effort-wise, look for a small ticket and big ticket items. Like, you know, the effort is going to be same, so why not put the effort in a big ticket item? And by that, big ticket item definition could change based on short and long term, but also look for where you can grow. I mean, which kind of customers you want to look for where you can grow. Initially, yes, you may not have a lot of choice to start with, and another thing, and this is another thing based on my experience, sometimes you have to work for free initially. Believe me, I mean, and we have done it for state universities free. And I would give you an example today. We're looking for a state university, and they basically, you know, we gave them a good proposal. We had to actually give them one of our product license, portal license, and host it, and basically support it, and we have to do it in 90 days. Their financial head came and said that, you know, we don't have trust on your company that, you know, you can deliver that, and, you know, so I said, okay, fine, you know, this all thing is free for you. And I mean, that was an investment of not a whole lot of money, but it was about $100,000 that time. But for a small company, I mean, $100,000 is a lot of money, I mean, to start with. And we did it for free. And every time when I spoke with that financial person, when it came to the bigger contract, I always use this as an example that, you know, if we can deliver we can invest $100,000 in your company and in a state university, what kind of financial risk you're talking about it, right? So again, you know, be prepared to do something free. I mean, sometimes it's hard because you don't have money and your customers don't want to pay you. They want your services, but they're not in a position to kind of pay you. But you have to really take a call on, you know, what is the strategic customer where you want to actually do something for free or at a very less price to get in the door. Get in the door. I mean, you know, you will get a lot of opportunities if you prove yourself.
Again, you know, great eloquent points both from Zia as well as Sanjay. I'm going to add a few points here. One is know what you're getting into in terms of your core offering. Don't get into something just because it looks very sexy from outside. If you cannot deliver, if you don't know the area, if you're not an expert in that area, don't get into it, because then you're going to hurt yourself in the process, and or you're going to depend on someone else for your business, and that's not a good position to be in, because no one is going to take care of your business the way you do. And at any point of time, you should be able to provide advice, direction, and if need be, roll up the sleeves and do the job. If you can't, then you're making yourself vulnerable. So identify that area that is your sweet spot, that is your second nature, that you can, you know, get up in the middle of the night and roll with it. Second, always ask the question, why should the customer choose you? Rather than expecting them to give you a contract, why you? And what's your differentiator? And the next thing you need to identify is the difference between the benefits and value, and what value are going to bring to the table. And I'll just give you a quick example. Benefits is basically when you take an RFP, all the requirements of RFP are your benefits. So anyone who's going to bid an RFP without addressing that is not going to win, which basically means that everyone is going to meet the benefits, or everyone is going to meet the requirements. So then comes back to the previous question, then why you out of all the people? And that's where the value comes in. And the value depends and varies on the customer, on the business problem that you're trying to address, and your value proposition. And I'll give you an example. I mean, if you take, let's take an example of life insurance. Let's say New York MetLife is a $250,000 life insurance. Let's say there are 3 people who are taking it. An individual who is flipping the burger in McDonald's, myself, and let's say Warren Buffett. When all of us die, the benefit of $250,000 is going to reach every single family. That's the benefit. But the value that $250 is going to bring to my family is very significant. But that value for the guy who's flipping the burger in McDonald's is a lottery. And to Warren Buffett, it's a drop in the bucket, or the ocean perhaps. And that's where we need to play. If you can bring in that value proposition to a customer, then obviously you have a much better chance of winning that and delivering that, and never make a promise that you cannot deliver. Because it's not just winning one bit, but it's the ability to sustain, survive, and grow. 95% of our business comes from a repeat customer. Good news travel fast, bad news travel faster. So it only takes one screw up, to repair that, to come out of it, it's going to take forever, and people will remember that forever. They may not necessarily remember all the good things you did, but one screw up is good enough for them to remember and put you out of business. So just be clear about that. And of course, we talked about the planning. They already touched upon the business plan to the activities that you need to do in terms of running the business. Be proud of what you do. Be proud of what you do, and you got to be passionate about what you do. Quite frankly, I want to say the second or third month of me doing business, I was attending a lot of network meetings and so on and so forth. Came up with this idea where I put on my badge. I don't have to go fill up in anywhere else. I'm going green, number 1, and number 2, there's a branding. If I am not proud of my band, who will be? So be proud of what we do, because that sends a very strong, clear message. And to a great extent, a lot of people will, over a period of time, will start recognizing the name. They may not know you, but they will know your name. In fact, this gentleman who walked up to me while I was coming in and they said, your name sounds so familiar. Are you in the restaurant business? Are you in the food business? I said, I only eat. But the name, people start recognizing you for who you are. And of course, last but not the least, Zia touched upon it, the resources. The people that you bring in, the people that you, get into your organization, and how you work with them, how you train them, how you treat them, and build that capacity. In fact, the mantra that we always have in ANGARAI is that I want people to tell me, Venkat, if you come for a meeting, it's good. If you don't, it's better. That's where we need to reach with our staff. If you put in that level of trust and faith in your team, I'm sure all of us will be successful.